Welcome back to the Brain Bonanza, where we talk all things brain related. Today we will be going through some parts of the brain and what their functions are. Today's episode will be done by Claudia Stanley and Lili Beecher, who both have their PhDs in brain. Hello there, I'm Claudia, and let's get this started. The cerebrum is the largest area of the brain and holds the two hemispheres. One is usually the more dominant and controls language and speech. The other controls visual and spatial information.
Hi guys, it's Lili here. Right now we're going to focus in on the brainstem. The brainstem is located between the cerebrum and the spinal cord, and it's in charge of all involuntary movement in the body. Some experts have referred to it as the mullet of the brain. But moving on, it also consists of three different parts: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla. The midbrain, up here, is in charge of motor movement, primarily in the eyes and the ears. Moving down here, we have the pons, which is in charge of transferring impulses from facial functions, as well as connecting the cerebellum and the cerebral cortex. Finally, at the bottom here, we have the medulla, which is in charge of carrying signals to and from the spinal cord.
Now, the cerebellum is located right next to the pons and behind and under the cerebrum. The cerebellum coordinates sensory input and muscular responses. So, let's see how much you've learned. What part of the brain is located within the brainstem and serves important functions in motor movement? Is it A, pons, B, medulla, C, cerebrum, or D, midbrain? That's right, it's D, midbrain.
Over here we have the corpus callosum. It's a bundle of nerves located right below the cerebrum, and it traverses both the left and the right brain, which allows communication between both halves.
Moving on to the thalamus translates neural impulses from various receptors to the cerebral cortex. The thalamus controls all sense except smell and also has significant roles in motor activity, emotion, memory, arousal, and other functions. Not to get confused with the thalamus, the hypothalamus's most important role is to connect the nervous system with the endocrine system through the pituitary gland that is located at the bottom of the hypothalamus. Now, Lili, what is the pituitary gland?
Great question, Claudia. The pituitary gland is often referred to as the master gland, and rightfully so. It has hormones that regulate the endocrine glands, such as the adrenal and thyroid, as well as the reproductive system. It also regulates tissue in the musculoskeletal system. Needless to say, this little gland is small but mighty. Moving on, we find ourselves with the amygdala. As part of the limbic system, it's in charge of regulating all the emotions we feel at all times. Like the pituitary gland, it's small but holds a big responsibility. Over here, in the posterior aspect of the brain, as part of the cerebral cortex, we have the occipital lobe, which is in charge of receiving information from visual fields.
Now, the parietal lobe is located in the front of the occipital lobe. It receives sensory input for touch and body position. Now, the sensory strip and motor strip are located right next to each other. The sensory strip is involved in registering sensation that is connected to specific parts of the body. And the motor strip controls voluntary movement. The two are connected and therefore exhibit a great interconnection, though they are in two different lobes.
Finally, over here on the anterior aspect of the brain, as another part of the cerebral cortex, we have the frontal lobe, which is in charge of making decisions, moving your muscles, and judgment. Well, everybody, that just about wraps it up. Hopefully you see now that the organ inside your skull is more than just a collection of basic information. It's a complex system that regulates almost everything you do in your body. Hopefully you keep that in mind the next time you go to ride your bike without a helmet. Signing off, this has been Dr. Lili and Dr. Claudia on this week's lesson of The Brain.